I'm sharing. Here,
Okay.
this is you. You
Okay.
probably clicked on
Okay.
the
Okay.
note
Okay.
taking.
I can move it to another.
So
Let's get started.
you want me to do this?
Maybe yes. Oops,
Or,
anyone.
huh? You want to do this?
No problem. I can do the first half and you do the second half.
Or you save your energy for tomorrow, the big one?
No problem.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, okay.
uh,
So,
we wait.
so it's time to get started. So this is LSVR working group. Welcome to join this session, and the session is being recorded. Okay, this is a note well. We're on Thursday, so I think people already read it several times. Just would like to encourage people to read it really carefully, and if you have more energy, just check more on the links provided on this page. Okay. You cannot hear me? Okay. Okay, I will be closer to the mic.
You're fine on remote.
Okay, thank you. And this is a note really well. This is continuous information about how we behave in IETF. Okay, just read it. Here are the meeting tips for in-person participants. You make sure you use this tool via the data tracker and use the Meet Echo to join the queue and the participants in show of hands. For the remote participants, make sure your audio and video are off unless you are chairing or presenting, and use a headset is recommended. Here are the results for the meeting, the W meeting, and this is the agenda for our session. We will talk about any open issues about the LSVR applicability draft. Then we will talk about the individual drafts on the SPF selection and SPF with segment routing extensions. We also have some more time. If there are any other topics you want to share or discuss, just maybe you can use this time. Okay.
So, any other topic that anybody has? Okay, go on. So we'll start with the working group document updates. So the base spec has been sent to ISG for publication. It's about a month now, and Jim is probably joining in, or if he has joined. This it would be picked up, expecting our AD to pick it up very soon. The second draft is LSVR applicability. This and the base spec is what we had to were our main two key main deliverables that we had to send to the ISG. So the working group last call ended earlier this week, but we still have it on the agenda in case anybody has something to add or comment on. Hopefully we will send it this for publication before the end of this IETF, that means this week. Then we have the LSVR BGPLS Yang. This covers the Yang model for BGP SPF, but also BGP LS. The document has expired, but the authors have shared the status on the working group mailer before this IETF. They're working through some challenges related to encoding of variable length TLVs and unknown TLVs, and the hierarchy of sub TLVs and sub TLVs and all, which we have in BGPLS. So that's being worked out. There is a GitHub link that the editor Mahesh had shared, and the working group is encouraged to review and comment and raise PRs, join in on the work. So probably after the IETF, we'll have some more progress on that draft. And then we have the final working group document, which is the L3DL. So this is really awaiting working group last call. That's in turn waiting on the recharter. So ISG approval of the recharter. However, I think would again request working group to review it, and we can sort things out now rather than do it during the working group last call, just to make the working group last call smoother. G, anything you want to add? So G is the shepherd for the L3DL. Do you want to add?
Yeah, as the shepherd of this L3DL document, I've started the review, and hopefully I can have some feedback and comments can be shared with the author and also the working group, maybe after this ITF.
Yeah, thanks, G. I'm not going over the individual documents because at least a couple of them are being presented. And this is just a reminder on where we are with the recharter. So hopefully soon before Bangkok, we get this done. Any questions or comments? If not, we move to the next presentation, which is basically the next topic is the LSVR applicability. We don't have a presentation because this is really a final call. If someone has anything to comment or say on that one. Going once, twice, thrice, and I think, okay. So if anybody had a trouble remote, okay, I don't see anything, right? Nobody in the queue?
Nobody.
Okay. So the next document is, yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jedong. I will give an update about this document on behalf of the co-authors. They're remote, maybe the time difference makes them difficult to attend meeting. Here's some proposed update to the BGP link state NRI selection rules. Okay, so here are some motivations about this draft. We know that BGPSRS SPF is designed for the link state information distribution and SPF path calculation for the MSDC scenarios, and it mostly leverages the mechanism of the BGP-based protocol and the BGPRS extensions. The current NRI selection rules defined in the BGPRS SPF draft document is shown as follows. There's major three rules defined. The first is NRI originated by the directly connected BGP SPF peers are preferred. And the second rule is the NRI with the most recent sequence number, TLV, which means the highest sequence number is selected. And the third rule is the NRI received from the BGP SPF peer with a BGP SPF speaker with a numerically larger BGP ID is preferred. However, this is can give you the deterministic selection result. This is very good. But in some cases, these rules may not be that good for efficient road exchange and convergence. Like redundant road advertisement may happen and may cause delayed road convergence. And also some consistent SPF computation result may be achieved or can be achieved with relaxed NRI selection rules. So for some of the use cases, this document describes the problems and the proposed update to the selection rules for the BGPRS SPF. We want to note that some of the problems as described in the previous version of this draft, has been resolved based on the update of the base SPF document. That is really thankful to the authors. Okay, the first problem scenario is shown in the picture. Basically, there's a new BGP SPF session being established between R1 and R6. And R1 advertises link NRI between R1 and R6 to the neighbor R2 and R3. And R2 firstly received NRI, a link NRI R1 to R6 from R1 directly and advertised it further to the neighbor R4 and R5. Then R4 received the link NRI with the same sequence number from both R3 and R2. And according to the rules defined in the base document, it would prefer the one from the peer with larger BGP ID, which is R3. Then R4 would advertise the link NRI to R2, and R2 will prefer the link NRI received from the peer with larger ID, R4. Then consequently, R2 will advertise the link NRI received from R2 to R5, which is a redundant advertisement of the same link information. It has no impact to the result of the SPF computation in this case. Jeff, do you want to ask a question now?
Yes, very quick question. In your prior scenario, is this IBGP or EBGP?
I think both can be used in this scenario. Just the way they're showing the topology, not about it. It can be either.
I'll let you present the scenarios and then ask further questions. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, this is the second problem scenario. And in this diagram, there are two parallel links between R1 and R2. On each link, a separate BGP session is established. So for the same NRI with the same sequence number received from R1 via the different sessions, I mean, this is we're talking about R2. The NRI selection rule cannot determine which one is the preferred route. And if no matter which tie-breaking rule is used, in this case, depending on the order of the routes received, R2 may need to advertise duplicated SPF routes to a further neighbor. So this is also some duplication in the advertisement. So here are some considerations about the selection rules for BGP LS SPF and also some proposed updates. The assumption here is that for the BGP SPF and NRI with the same sequence number, the information used for SPF computation will be the same. So additional NRI selection and update costs due to the other attribute change are considered not necessary from the perspective of the consistent SPF computation. So this document proposed to update the selection rules for all the BGPRS SPF NRIs. So the first rule is now changed. The second rule is not. I think it's the first two rules are still the same as the current base document. And we add a third rule to replace the current third rule is the NRI received from a BGPRS SPF peer with the same sequence number as the one of the current selected one should not be selected, which means we will keep the sequence number, the same sequence number NRI, which has already been used. So this new rule can help to solve the duplicated advertisement problem as shown in the previous examples.
AC Lindum, Lavan. Hey, so what this does is it avoids an extra path computation. That's what it does because you've already used the one that was advertised, that was received before. Is that what you're saying, or what does this new rule save?
It can save duplicated advertisement, not the.
Oh, you don't even advertise. How do you know the other guy has that for sure? Because you've already advertised the previous one, or how do you know that?
Already
Okay.
same sequence number one has already been selected and advertised. Then we receive another one with the same sequence number, but with some other attributes being different.
It's been, let me see if that, okay, let me see if that case is handled. It's the same exact NRLI. It's for the same
Yeah.
link, same sequence number.
Yeah, but some like the BGP router ID is different, or some other attributes are different.
Oh, there is something different then.
Yeah, something different, but they are not necessary for SPF computation. Yeah.
Okay.
So it does not.
It's a question here. If there is some difference in the attribute, I would expect that the sequence number is updated or bumped up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm trying to see
So
when this
I
case,
thought
like
it was the originator.
where this
Yeah,
case would
it's,
be.
the difference is caused by the propagation. Maybe you say the AS path from different paths is traversed. Or
I won't
the,
say that.
from different
I won't
peer
say, I
ID.
gotta think about this. I won't say that can happen, or maybe it was just
Oh.
something that was not specified that we better if it was specified.
Okay,
Yes.
maybe just to clarify, you are saying that the BGPLS attribute is unchanged, which is where the sequence number is, but some other attribute like the AS
Yes.
path has changed.
Yes, some other attributes which may not
Okay.
change the SPF computation. So this is a proposal.
I think
Okay.
we have to take questions. Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff House. So it's been a while since I reviewed the procedure, so I'm going off of what's on the slide here. What I would expect to be happening that gives you the properties you're looking for. So 1 and 2, the easiest way to reframe those in terms of standard BGP route selection is that you want to select for the best sequence number that you have, the originating peer if possible. And then past that point, the way I'd actually reframe 3, and I'm not sure 3 is actually a necessary thing, but let me walk you through why I think that's the case. For every other case, if you're following through with mostly the standard BGP route selection, so if you go back to your prior slide 3, I think, where you actually have the topology that looked like eBGP, if you were tie breaking there at AS path length is, again, the default thing, depending on exactly where the sequence number check is at. This means that you would choose the shortest AS path, through things, and that gives you some of the property you're looking for. If this was a route reflector mesh instead, it would choose the shortest cluster length. So that's
Right.
again back to common procedure. If you could return to your slide 5 for your point 3, the thing that I'm treating this one as in terms of existing procedure, not in 4271, but RFC 5004, has procedures for basically keep the oldest route, basically the most stable route instead. Yeah. And right. The point that Keitan's sort of raising is that in circumstances where some BGP attribute might have gotten meddled with, from the point of origination or potentially points of origination if the same sequence number is propagated by more than one party. Imagine like communities are added or something like that. At that point, rather than trying to be overly specific, standard BGP at least gives you a sense on how it's supposed to work. What I think you have as an operational consideration, for LSVR cases, you're not expecting people to do, super clever BGP things here. So as an example, if you meddle with the attributes, the comment had been made that you can bump the sequence number. And, that's sort of assuming that BGP operations are intended to show up as an IGP-like thing. And the trouble is, in some of those circumstances, if that's the procedure, you could end up in these BGP distribution loops where route is received, attribute is changed, you bump a sequence number, and it goes back around a loop, and you're sort of in this endless call response cycle where the sequence numbers are just getting constantly updated. It's very similar to the route oscillation for meds. So I think the solution here is still largely the same. If you're willing to look at 5004 and use the oldest route thing, I think most of this falls out as proper behavior.
Yeah, thanks for this information. We will take a look at that RFC and see whether anything else should need to be considered.
Ketan, Talaulikar is a working group member here. Jeff, I think the sequence number is not bumped up during propagation.
Right, in
Sequence
this case.
number is a part. Sequence number TLV is part of the BGP-LS attribute. That's the kind of a link state or LSA equivalent, and that's not supposed to be changed during
propagation.
that propagation.
Right.
So I don't think there would be a loop, but yeah, there may be probably unnecessary flooding.
Right.
Uh,
And the infinite printing press problem is not something I expect out of proper behavior here. My sort of vague concern on this, and it's only a really vague one, is that what happens when you have implementations that decide they want to regenerate based on the contents for some strange reason? That's not something you're expecting out of the LSVR mechanism, but I suspect you've been doing BGP long enough that you can see some implementation trying to be too clever and causing this as a problem.
Yeah. But I think, and if I remember from the reading or review of the spec, but I think Keyur is there. So Keyur, maybe you want to go first.
No, why don't you finish it and then I'll jump in.
Yeah. So the reason I believe, and AC and Keyur, you can correct me, is that last third bullet was there is because it's only the best one that is flooded or propagated further. And this allows some sort of a deterministic thing. Without that, we may actually, I mean, the BGP LS attribute is the same, but the rest of the things could be different. I mean, it's doesn't affect the functionality, but what you would expect normally in case of BGP, you may not see it. But Keyur, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see, I have a hard time seeing this case happening, but I get what you're saying. In any case, as Ketan said earlier, that the functionality is not going to be impacted. It's going to operate as it is. But minimally, you could always suggest implementations log some kind of message to analyze and say, hey, I have seen this kind of a behavior, which I probably should not be seeing, because anytime you change any IGP characteristics, the sequence number has to get bumped up.
Yeah, so in this case, the sequence number is not changed. So the newly received route has the same sequence number as the one you already installed and advertised. So in that kind of scenario, this proposed rules is to avoid additional unnecessary advertisement. And we know that it is makes that some of the other attributes may not be the same on different nodes, but for the functionality of the BGP SPF itself, there should be no impact to the computation, right? Okay, I will finish with the
again, Keyur
Patel.
One thing that, as far as, and we will go back and check the draft also, but one thing we have said is sequence number is for you to detect the loop and drop the packets. I don't think we have put in a clause in there that says don't advertise. As long as updates are different, attributes are different, we will advertise. But AC and I can go look at the text for that as well.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks. And AC and Keyur, because the document is with our AD, in case there are any changes required, let's do that soonish. Thank you.
Okay. So do I need to finish it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So for this document, just our suggestion is to make this an optional optimization to the BGPRS SPF selection rules. So it can be useful in some scenarios where the redundant advertisement is a bigger concern comparing to the deterministic selection. Okay, thank you.
One more slide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one, Keyur Patel, Arcus again. One comment I will quickly have, if chairs allow me to. Is that okay?
Of course.
Yeah. One comment I will have is redundant updates inside BGP has never been an option. never been a problem. They have been always there. There have been papers written on that to see how BGP with update group optimizations can send redundant updates to the other peers. So that is somewhat baked inside a machinery. That's a good optimization to have, and that could be at an implementation level as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Li Zhang from Huawei. I will introduce how to apply BPR segment routing extensions to BPSPF. Okay, this is the introduction. BPRS leverages the mechanism of both BGP protocol and BPRS protocol extensions with the extension to BPRS attributes and new NRI selection rules defined in draft BPSPF. And on the another hand, RC 1985 defines extensions to BGP RC in order to carry the SRPRS information. And RC 9540 defines the extension to BPRS to advertise SRv6 segments along with their behaviors and other attributes. However, in some scenarios or networks where BPRS SPF is used, and it may be useful to enable SR routing or source routing mechanisms for traffic engineering or optimization. So this draft proposes the mechanisms for the BPSPF for the BPRS extensions to for segment routing to BPRS SPF. So the first question is which attributes TRVs defined in RC 1985 are applicable to BPSPF, and we analyze all the TRVs defined in RC 1985, and find most of them may be applicable in BPSPF except for the line adjacent seed TRV. This TRV is defined in IGP, such as ECS and OSPF, and is referenced in the BPRS. But for BPSPF, there is no line interface scenarios, so this theory may be not applied in BPSPF. Okay.
We want to take a question.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Yeah, Keyur, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Keyur Patel Arcus. I think, again, now looking at the draft, we have defined extensions for IPv4 and IPv6 when it comes to SPF SAFI. I don't think we have yet defined extensions for MPLS. That may need to be done. And I am suggesting with that in mind, and as from what Charter also says, we've stayed very close to V4 and V6. I don't know if we want to go ahead or this is more of a question to chairs as well as working group to go and talk about label extensions. Definitely SRv6 may be a different beast, but that's my comments. Thank you.
That's a good point, Keyur, and we can talk about it. I'm not 100% sure this fits in the current charter text, but this is an individual document being presented. And yes, you're right. This is about adding MPLS and SRv6 capabilities in.
Yeah, SRv6 should probably fit in as is for the fact that it's IPv6, but MPLS is a bigger beast. So something to discuss and keep in mind. And I understand it's an individual working group document. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you raise a very good point. For SRMPRS and SRv6, maybe their applicability need to be splitted, so that for IPv6 and SRv6 it may be more straightforward. But for MPRS, maybe we need to think about whether BGP SPF need to introduce SPF MPRS at the beginning firstly.
Right. Maybe we can talk offline to see whether we need to separate this into two drafts. Okay, and
Yeah.
yes.
Ketan Talaulikar, working group member here. About the range TLV that you have added here, if I'm not wrong. If you could go to the previous slide, please.
Okay, sure.
The range TLV was for SRMS, and the source OSPF router ID TLV was for OSPF. Perhaps an SRMS, perhaps they may not be applicable in BGP LSSPF, right?
Sorry, I didn't follow you.
So let's say, so there is a SRMS preference, which is for segment routing mapping server, right? Which was between segment routing and LDP.
Yes, yes, I know.
And then we have the range, which was for the again for SRMS. I'm just wondering, and then there is a source OSPF router ID. My question was whether they are applicable for BGP SPF.
For this theory, I was thinking maybe this is useful in BGP SPF for the collection this information to the controller. So we listed for applicable, but yes, maybe we can continue discussing the minutes to see whether we should reserve it.
Yeah, AC Lyndon Lavin, I remember that in 2024, do we really need to worry about a mapping server? And if we do, to be honest with you, I thought that whole range business, I wasn't on those drafts in the IGPs. I thought that was a real hack. The whole range and the automatic replication of the same preference. It was a terrible, terrible hack anyway in the IGPs. So I don't think we should, if we do it, we could do mapping, but we could do it with prefixes, individual prefix, rather than trying to do this under the covers thing that relies on the subnets being the same size and being incremented in the lower order octet of the subnet that doesn't have the host. It was a complete they thought they were getting efficiency, but really it was just a mess. Anyway, so I don't think we should put that into BGP, LSV, into BGP SPF encodings.
Okay.
You guys can take that back and look at it and see what you think too. It's not my draft, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you for your comments. And yes, for the SR6, we also announced the TRV attributes TRV defined in RC 95 and 40, and also as we mentioned in the previous slide, and the line agency said TRV is not applicable in BGP SPF. And for the next steps, we needed to specify the value of applicable those TRVs in BGP SPF, and we welcome for any comments or suggestions on these TRVs, which should be reserved or which should be removed. And we also would like to whether the working group will consider to adopt this straightforward draft. And that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a question from Jeff. You want to ask that, Jeff?
Sure, I didn't need to take microphone time for it, but based on your request here, this is intended to go for informational status.
I think there's no new TLVs, but this is a extension to the functionality in BGP SPF. So it
Okay.
should be a standard track.
I think I missed part of the presentation in the sense that normative change to behaviors happening. If so, that's standard track, yes.
I had a question on the
Yeah.
previous slide for SRv6. If you could
Okay.
please go to the
This one.
yeah. So here as well, just feedback. We have the SRv6 peer node SID TLV, which is for more like a BGP EPE case. Since you have this is more like a link state, and
Yeah.
there is a n.x. The question is, would you still need the peer node SID TLV here? Just a question or a feedback.
Sorry, which TRV?
The SRv6 peer node set TLV, that was for the BGP EP egress peer engineering scenario.
Peer node TRV?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps you could just think or
Uh,
cross check if that's really needed here in BGP SPF.
Okay. Okay. I need. I forget. I forgot why I list here, and maybe I need to check the definition of this TRV offline.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think I would suggest that we are still a little bit further from the adoption part, but please continue to work on the document. One thing is that as opposed to the previous presentation, this has not been introduced on the working group mailer list. So perhaps you want to do that and maybe also drop in a note on Spring to let them know that something like this is happening in LSVR. That would help. Thank you. So I think that was, yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Sorry, it helps if I unmute. Yeah, one question that needs to be resolved with this, from what I can tell, I haven't read the draft yet, but just a quick skim of it suggests to me it's not in charter. And if that's the case, I know there's a charter discussion ongoing, and once we get through the base spec, we're going to look to recharter. So it's something that should probably be added to the agenda as to whether the working group wants that in charter or not. But it seems to me clearly it's not at this point.
Yes, Jim. This is a new draft 00 version that was just presented. This was not. This had not come up in the discussion about the recharter that we had. So we can go back and check with the working group.
Yep.
Keyur, go ahead, please.
Yes, hi, Keyur Patel, artist. I think where we have seen is great amount of traction now lately on LSVR is also in the networks that are not compute based, but the newer set of trends and technologies where the world is headed towards, particularly for Flow Fabric. LSVR like protocols are becoming increasingly very attractive. And to that point, having a SR like extension on top of it allows you to do source based routing as well as per packet spraying inside the class networks very interestingly, very nicely, because you know what the source based identification is, whether it's SRv6 or MPLS. And so to that extent, more discussions are clearly required, but something like this may be very interesting to expand or minimally consider in the charter. That would be my view. Thank you.
Okay. So this is what I'd like to suggest to the authors of this draft to introduce it on the list, get some discussion going, and also we'll look at starting the discussion on whether this is something that working group should include in the new recharter that is happening.
Yeah, so we are done with our agenda. Is there any other topic you would like to discuss? We still have some time.
Okay, I think we are done there. So hopefully we'll see in Bangkok, but yeah, let's see. Yeah. So Jim, I think when before you joined, we shared the working group status. Were you there at that point on the call?
No, I just got back here, so yeah, but I can look at the slides.
Yeah, sure. So we have concluded the working group last call for the applicability draft as well. There are no further comments.
Okay, good.
So you can expect that probably tomorrow in your queue.
Okay, sounds good. And I'm going to pick up on the base spec next,
Yeah.
which shouldn't be too much of an issue. So, okay, sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ostensibly, there was a snack break before this. I didn't see the snacks.
All the way down.
Oh, they're only on the ground floor? In the ground floor. Ah. The last day.
Hello?
It's not the last day. Tomorrow is the last day. I missed it today. So all I have left. Oh,